Here's a problem with our shower doors. The bottom slide on the bottom of the door is broken, so it won't track in these slides here. I've already replaced this guide, which I'll tell you the part number of later, but it was broken as well. So now this is a new guide I've replaced, but it won't work because the slides on the bottom of the door won't catch in it. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to fix that. Here are the parts you'll need for this shower door repair project. I use two methods to replace the bottom of shower door slides, one for each door. In my hand is one of the options I used. See where my fingers are? That clips onto the bottom of the door, and then where my thumb is, that is the slide that goes into the bottom of shower door guides. This was one of the methods, and I'll give you the part numbers and stuff for that later, but this is a more expensive option, but it's easier to implement. But the problem is that where my fingers are, the widest one I could find was a 1/2 inch width, but my door thickness is 5/8, and when I tried to stretch this over that 5-inch door, it fatigued the plastic. So what I ended up having to do was cut off one of these tabs and then screw through the sides to hold it on. So it worked. It wasn't a glamorous solution, but it's one of the solutions I'll show you later. Here's another possible option that I didn't try, but I've outlined the part in the video of what you'll need. So here's a quick synopsis of this thing. It's this piece here, and here's a close-up of what you need to do to make that piece work. The red area is the area that you'd have to cut off, and so then the remaining piece you run screws through where this green arrow is indicating, and that's what you do. You'd have to cut this off. All these parts you kind of have to modify for any of these options. So this one, I don't know the pitfalls that would happen with it, but I just saw online that this raw part, you could modify by cutting off the red piece, and don't know how it'd work, but it's another option. Lift up in the doors here to lift them up out of the track and get them out of the track. So here's the bottom of one of the doors, and this is the part that's broken. See, it's broken. It should look like this with a tab sticking out, but that tab has totally been broken off, so we're gonna have to do something with this, and I couldn't find a replacement piece, so we're gonna have to improvise. Here's the bottom door guide that I've already replaced. You can see where the the outline was of the old one. Anyway, this one's fine. The old one had a screw that mounted from the top. I had to drill a hole and mount it from the side, but it should be fine. So I moved the doors outside to work on them, and I need to clear this old track. Normally you can just kind of slide it out of there, but this is so brittle and stuck in there that it's just wanting to snap out. So first thing to do is to clean that track out. Okay, so here's the piece that came out of that track, and now I'm going to clean this whole door. This thing is just loaded with junk that it's accumulated over the years. So I'm going to use some bleach base cleaner to clean that, and it's good to have it outside, because if you breathe that stuff, you know, it can just, I can get bronchitis from breathing that stuff, and you should have gloves on too and eye protection. So that's next. What I'm showing you now is my first attempt on fixing this issue, and what this piece came with is just like this, but it also had a plastic piece that came up on this side, and the idea was it had the spring wide enough to go over. But my door, this is 5/8 and this piece is 1/2 inch, so it just wouldn't work. So I had to, what I did is cut this edge off, so only I have this tab, and I screwed screws to it down the side, and so it has this tab down, which is what we need to run through the bottom guide. So this will still work, and I'm going to use it because I spent 17 bucks on the darn thing, and what I'm going to show you, the way that I think is going to work for the other door I'm going to do, that's a lot cheaper and will work better. But I'm just showing you that you could use this method if you wanted to, but it's more expensive, and you do have to trim this side off, and it's just not as elegant. So anyway, just for reference. Okay, we got the original one that I replaced the bottom seal on, and I've got it reinstalled, and you can tell here that this tab is just not very strong. So if you just push on this a little bit, it can flip over into the next track, and we really don't want that. I mean, this thing works kinda, and I wanted to keep it because it was cost me 17 bucks, but jeez, it's just not, it's not as good as the method I hope to show you here in a second. So I may replace it too. That's the deal. So the first thing I wanted to do is see how well this plan will even work. So here's this strip. It comes in a coil like this. So I'm going to take just a little bit of that and put it, see if I can put it into the bottom door track. See, I've got it in there now. And my idea is to put it in there and then drill through where my finger is, drill through the door to mount that on there. And it looks like I'm going to be able to pull this off. The one part is, there's a screw in here that's pushing the thing down a little bit. I may have to carve a piece out of the plastic to get around that screw. But other than that, it should sit up high inside the track. So that's my next step. Of course, I gotta measure the width of the door and cut the plastic piece to that width, which is what I'm showing here, and it looks like it's about 22 and a half. About 22 and a half. Okay, I've got a line marked with my combo square for squareness at 22 and a half. Now I'll just use these heavy duty scissors to cut it. Okay, I've cut my piece to 22.5, and then I used the utility knife to cut out this little notch here for that screw that was protruding through, and I still have my finger, so it's all good. What I'm doing now is trying to figure out how long to make that piece. It's longer than what it needs to be. I mean, it's down here somewhere, and it can only go about as low as the track. So that is looking like it needs to be about 1 inch plus whatever amount needs to go up inside the door. So it's going to be about 1 1/4 is what I'll cut the length to. You can see from this video that the strip seal is 1.5 inches, and I only need it to be 1 inch long to hit the bottom of the guide. So I put a mark here at 1 inch. Now I'm going to have to trim the whole piece to 1 inch. So I'll mark the thing and probably use, I don't know, a level, something with a straight edge to cut that. That's the next step. Okay, I had to cut a notch in the other end too for a screw. So I got a notch here, and then a 25.5 inch piece with a notch on this end too. And then I cut it to this 1 inch width. So that is the piece. Now I just gotta screw it in there, and that's the next step. So what I want to do is drill through this side and have it come through just about where my thumb is. Just a little, there's not much room there to drill through, but that's where the screws got to go. So let's see what happens. Okay, well, I've drilled my holes. They're right on the hairy edge of this thing. I mean, it's right on the edge. I built 4 of them. A couple in the middle, a couple on either end. So now, time to see if I can. Well, here this is. I drilled 3 30-second holes, and I used number 6 by 1/2 inch screws to mount this strip in there. So it's a little dicey. You don't got a lot of much room here between the end and this where you got to place the screw. But I pulled it off, and now I need to put it in there. Okay, well, there it is. This outside door slides in the track. If I wasn't so lazy, I would have done the inside one the same way so it could be in its own track. But I didn't want to waste this other piece I'd already put on there. And since it's kicked to the inside, it needs to use the same track as the other door. But as you can see here, yeah, it works just fine, even though both of them are in the same track. And this one works too. So, you know what? I think I'm gonna call that good. It ain't perfect, but it's working. So, I don't know how long it's gonna last, but it keeps Mama off my back for a bit. So there you go.